I stole this line from a movie that's going to come out very soon. Nothing we do is for today, and I believe in that. Everything we do is for the next generation and the generation after that, and the way we're going to leave this land, and that's what we call sustainable. And we're going to talk a little today, I'm going to talk a little today about not only cover crops, and we farm about 11,000 acres, but we do run a lot of grazing, and so our soil is as important on our grazing as it is on our farm. And so we're going to look at a few things today, and I got a little story that I'm on the SARE research board, or AC board, and so I believe in education as much as I do research. And so I got a little story about my granddaughter's she was 6 years old. That was our first trail drive, and we were taking off. We trailed about 7 miles, about 250 pairs, young pairs going from spring pasture to summer pasture. And so my son made me lead her. I thought she could ride, but he told me I had to do this. So we got to visit for about 7 hours. And so we got the cattle down to the first spot where the water was. It wasn't on our land. We were trail across some neighbor's land. And so I told her, I said, this is a riparian area. We always try to take care of our riparian areas. We develop every ounce of water we can so we can spread them out so we never overgraze the riparian areas. She kicks that old black paint horse up alongside me and says, So we go a little farther, 2 or 3 more miles, and the calves are kind of coming back, so I call the boys and tell them to come back and help me a little bit. And so we're standing there, and I get off and I pick up blue gammon grass. It's headed out about that big, and I get it back up on there, and I show it to her, and I said, now, this tells you when to go to summer pasture. That blue gammon grass is all headed out, and if you don't take too many cattle, you'll never overgraze. And this is time, it's time to go to summer pasture. She kicks that old black bean up alongside me, she says, And so that was part of my education to her. The other education was that she kicks that old paint up alongside and says, do you know you are my sunshine? And I said, But I didn't know there was 4 verses to it. I do not. But we got almost to the gate, and in our country you can see a long ways. And up on there was a big eagle. I'm kidding you not, this eagle's this big. He's sitting on a big sand rock, and I looked at her and I said, now you know that eagle, in the spiritual world, that tells us that they oversee a journey, and they oversee our safety. And I said, today our journey is just very easy. We go from spring pasture to summer pasture. But that eagle's watching our safety. She didn't say anything. So we got a little closer, and we got from me to you, Perry. And that eagle's sitting on that sand rock. And I said, see, he's watching us. She kicked that black old paint horse up alongside and said, Grandpa, I think he's just looking for mice. So, we talk about legacy, and we talk about these kids, and our soil is so important to us. We watch it, we've watched it for years. We started no-till in 1983. We had droughts in the 80s, 81, 83, 85, and 88. It was some tough years. 2017 was the worst drought in history. It blew every one of them out of the water. We had no rain. Our soil profile was full in the beginning of 17, and by the May 18th, whatever we put in the ground did not come up. We did not get any rain. But the good part was watching our no-till from 1983 to 2017. It's amazing what that dirt did. It's amazing. I believe in you'll see my grandkids. Everything about is what is not for today, it's for tomorrow. This is part of our operation. We run 2 combines. Like I say, we crop about 11,000 acres. We raise cover crops. We have been for 4 years. This will be our 5th year. We go on somewhere in the area of up to 1,000 acres. But we strategically place them near water or in low spots that 200 or 300 acres at a time, and instead of fallow, which we don't do a lot of fallow, we do a lot of other things, but we do a lot of rotations. But we put this in and we graze it out. We use our cow, and that's part of ours. That's part of the some of our cover crops that we've raised in the past 4 years. It's been good to our dirt. Our dirt is important. I mean, I just can't emphasize enough how we look at the organic matter. We came from a 0.6, 0.8, 0.9 in 1983 to just under 2. We're about 2 right now. That's 30 years, a little over 30 years. And I don't have another 30 years. So cover crops is a way to enhance my soil to get it for that next generation to better. This is 2016. This is about the last week in June. We trail out a pasture in June and move out. That's 2007, same week, same pasture. We didn't grow any grass, and that's the color. That was the real color. That's the same pothole, same place, the same pasture. But what the dirt, and we will start to rebuild this pasture this year. That's just part of what we do. We can't do them with cover crops. But when we use cover crops in our farming, we use a 17 species seeding of a cocktail. We use a lot of different things for a lot of different reasons. We have to make it may not pay in our farming, but it pays when we graze it out with cattle, and the calves are heavier, certain things like that. We have to make it pay some way, somehow. So we stick cattle in them, and there's places that they came out and had these tours and stuff, and they kind of figured there was about a 4-ton, 4.5-ton mass in here. And cool season, warm season species that we use. And in certain years, 15, just a normal year, good year. We figured these calves were gaining in September somewhere around 4 pounds a day on their cover crops. They're sitting in a 6,000 acre set of fields. There's 400 acres of cover crops. They stayed for 6 weeks, and we had 500 pairs in there, and they stayed there for 6 weeks. They went to water, and they came back. And they ate that down very well. And the next year, in 16, yes, we had a very high rainfall. But the next year, we planted that 600 acre field. It was only 400 acres of cover crops in it. We planted it to Durham. And I run my combine. I told my son, go combine somewhere else, because this is mine. We were 9 bushel Durham better on the cover crops than where we're not in the same. 9 bushels Durham better. That was a return. Plus, we got the 4 pounds of gain on the calves a day. Well, I figured they should have been gaining 2.5 anyway. But to go into that kind of mass, and we had a lot of corn, grazing corn, we had a lot of things. So there's just a strip with the old place in the background, and there's a little bottom there with some gravel. And the only reason I did this, I seeded that there just because it was solid cobble rock. And I thought, well, let's just see what it'll do. And that's the kind of guy I am. So this was us cutting Durham, and we even got full. And this is some of the cover crops this year. Not so good. It was tough to get them, but we got some grazing out of it and stuff. This is some grazing that we grazed in January of 16. We left these cows on there, and we never fed a bale of hay because it didn't snow under. We didn't feed a bale of hay, and we feed a lot of hay in our country. We didn't feed a bale of hay until probably January 30th, and those cows are usually not that fat in my country. But it was a very good year, And those cover crops, we didn't hit there till December 15th probably, and stuff, and they just lived on those cover crops residual, and we have no trouble running an air drill through it. We run a 70-foot air drill, and we never had 1 ounce of trouble with cover crops. So we believe we're building the organic matter. We believe we're rebuilding the soil. We know when no-till has brought us from the 0.8 to 2. Can we get to 4? No. 2.5, 2, a few years. The grandkids will tell us. They'll tell somebody. They'll tell your kids, whoever. But that's what we're here to do. This is part of our farm. We seed into a lot of things, and we enjoy doing it. It's just, it's part of our heritage. This, if you look, is cover crop residue. This is the spring of 16. It's wet. This is on a rocky slope. I've owned that ground since 1981. I never even seen it wet. It runs down into a little bit of a dry wash, and it washes all the dirt away, and it's nothing but rocks in the bottom. That's nothing. There's a lot of rocks underneath that residue, and I've never seen anybody get stuck there until my son did. And they thought I was nuts. Brought the big tractor over, and we hooked onto it, and I'm out behind in the ruts, digging around with the soil to see how good this cover crops did. I was laughing, and my son thought I'd be chewing him out. Some more cover crops that we deal with. We do use that grazing corn, and it's primarily because we need the money. We need the money to get out of those calves. We need to graze them. We need them to gain a little more weight. We need, those type of things, and that we enhance the dirt. But yet, economically, we have to make it viable. And that's the biggest thing that we can do and we're in a very low rainfall. We're 15 on the bench. We're about 12 not on the bench. And the bench is about 6,000 acres or 7. But this is some of my friends. He put some out there, and in infiltration, they have blowouts. And I just put this picture in to show that what these brassicas are doing to those blowouts and taking the moisture and letting it infiltrate through that dirt is unbelievable. So when we talk economics, you can't always put dollars to it. You have to have dollars of return, but there's things that you have to do that will enhance that dirt. Because everything we do is not for today. Everything we do is for next year and next generation. And so that's what I have. That's farming and ranching. We do research on big plots. and sometimes we don't make any money on it, but we learn from it every time. There's always that education. There's always that, So that's what I have.